I'm Rob Andrews and I'm here at the greatest and most famous motocross Grand Prix track there ever was, and that's Namur in Belgium. I was very fortunate to be able to race here during its heyday, during the 80s. Last race here in 1990, and I've not really been back since. So I thought I would come back, have a look around the track and tell you my recollections of what it was like to race around here. But perhaps first a bit of history. That in front of us is one of the most recognizable backdrops in motocross, and most people refer to that as the Citadel, but it's not. That is the Stade de Jeux, or Stadium of Games. And that's actually, although it looks Roman, that's quite recently built. That was built about 1910, so just over 100 years old. But when we refer to the Citadel, the location of this race, is actually the entire hilltop fortress that stands in the center of Namur. And that goes back to the Middle Ages. This place, it's sort of in a triangle of land between the Meuse and the Sambre rivers. And it was a great military stronghold. And so going back 600, 700, 800 years, they decided to build fortifications here, and it became a military stronghold. And that is the Citadel, meaning fortress. The GP was held here. It first started in about 1940 something, and it held races up until about 2006, 2007. And it was just the most beloved place. So I'm going to take a walk around the track and give you my thoughts, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So as I walk up towards the Stade de Jeux, I should tell you that that looks Roman or something, but it's not. That's only 100 or so years old. So that was built quite recently, although the rest of the Citadel itself is quite old, medieval, I think. I'll have to look that up. I did research it for my book. But the crowds used to stand in there, sit in there and watch the racing. And just at the bottom here, this is where the Parc Fermé was. So we would gather here before the races, just at the foot of these steps, looking out over the esplanade, as it was called. And the start gate was just in front of me here. The track used to pass behind the start and head off into the woods there. So the start gate, I'm guessing, would be about where this wet patch is here. Now the start took off up there towards those campers, but that building, that modern building, wasn't there before. So the first turn was a bit further up. It doesn't look particularly long here, but we went a little bit further there. And the first turn was really fast right-hand sweeping bend that went around the right-hand side of this esplanade. So I'll walk up there and show you that. So the start would come towards us there, straight towards me.
The gate drops, they're away into that first corner. Who will it be?
And then curve around a big sweeping fast right-hander by these campers, following those concrete blocks, and then head back towards that corner there.
Met het nummer 30 zat er mee vooraan, Rob Andrews. En Hakan Karlqvist inderdaad. Hakan Karlqvist met het nummer 11 heeft de snelste start genomen voor Kees van der Ven met het nummer 3.
So the fast first turn was sweeping through here and into a 180-degree right about here in front of the Stade de Jeux. Then it would turn right, another 180 left, roughly there, and then it would turn back behind the start gate and then off into the woods.
Dan Dave Torp in tweede positie en dan verdwijnen ze voor ons uit het gezicht daar, duiken daar de bos.
Now this part of this is tarmac here, and it's all hard standing. I think they use this for outdoor events, concerts and that sort of thing, and parking. But for the GP it was always covered in sand. I mean, pretty deep sand as well. I never remember it digging down to tarmac underneath, so that was quite a big undertaking. So after turning around behind the start gate, we start to head out into the woods there. So we're heading out of the esplanade section now, and for those watching up on those steps up there, they wouldn't see the riders for another 3 minutes and 5 seconds, something like that. It was a very long lap time. But as we head out here, I remember this being third gear and pretty fast, and then we would jump off this jump here. or off this bank and into this parkland section. But what strikes me now is that it's just full of trees. You know, where would the track go there? Now that big tree that's in the centre of the picture there, I can't remember whether we went left or right of that, but it just staggers me that the track should go there. And funnily enough, as I remember racing it, I never remember thinking about the trees. We would just see the track. This is probably one of the few tracks that I can actually remember now where it went 30 years later. But I just remember the track and the berms and the bumps. I don't remember the trees. So I'm guessing we must have either gone between these two or between those two there. But either way, it's pretty narrow. They did build a tabletop here one year as well, in the later years, probably 1990. But we're heading into the parkland section now. And if you look off to the side, look at all the houses. If you don't realise, you don't understand, this track is in the middle of Namur. It's on a national monument on a hill in the centre of the city. It's like holding a motocross race in Hollywood Hills. If I just turn around here, you can see you've got all these beautiful houses, and there's a city down there. So the Namur 500 Grand Prix was just held in the middle of a city. Absolutely amazing. I can't remember specifically whether we went left of these couple of trees here or right, but nice part of the track this. It was always reasonably smooth and flowing and quite quick. And up ahead there in the distance is the famous cast iron bridge. And I know that we did turn up the bank just before that. There was a right-hander sort of on camber turn, so I don't know whether that was in there or whether we went left of those two trees up there maybe. We'll see in a moment. Now I now think that we came up by this cow parsley here and kind of turned against that bank and then came down to the cast iron bridge. So I haven't walked underneath this cast iron bridge for 30 years. In fact, more than 30 years. 34 years. And there's a tarmac road that goes underneath it that's the access track for all these lovely properties here. But I do remember that we were coming down, I mean this tarmac road here wasn't covered in dirt. So we were coming down off this bank in third gear on a 500 and having to turn across this kind of funky off camber. The sides of the bridge there would have been covered with bales, that sort of thing. I mean, solid concrete wall there. There's lots of things around here that you really wouldn't want to hit. And lots of annoying kind of curbstones there. You know, it's not even a smooth transition. You get your front wheel on that curbstone, that's going to be a problem. But there's the bridge, and it is iconic. Now this up here on the right is the Parc Attractif Reine Fabiola. Excuse my French pronunciation there. And this was the pits. So we would drive in along these roads here, turn left into this place, through these gates here. And I'm guessing it's closed at the moment. But inside here was the pits or the paddock. And bear in mind we had smaller vehicles then, but it was a children's play park. And so we used to park all the way around. It goes around in a loop. And we used to park around the outside and on the inside of this play park. And this is bringing back some quite vivid memories for me. I remember one year it was really, really hot and we happened to be parked next to like a little paddling pool. So in between motos, I took my kit off and cooled down in one of those paddling pools. And this is relevant to the story of Håkan Karlqvist and his beer stop, because incidentally this is a long way from the start. When we had to go down to the Parc Fermé, it's a good quarter of a mile walk through packed crowds down these streets to get the bikes to the Parc Fermé and to get ourselves to the line. So the pits are quite a way away. But Håkon and his mechanic parked right round the back of the pits here. So they had an even longer walk to get to the start, but they did that because the track passes the other side of this pit. So I'll show you as it goes round. So he parked way over the back on his own in this play park. So back to the track. So we were coming up through the bridge. Again, on this tarmac, it wasn't covered with dirt. And then we'll be coming through here in third, maybe fourth gear. And I remember there was a bit of a kink here, and it's on tarmac. So the track was going across here and heading straight towards that parking sign there and up into the woods. But this was really slippy because remember, we're on motocross bikes, 500s, with just knobby tyres, so they're not suited for this terrain. They get zero grip on tarmac. You're getting dirt and stuff dragged onto the track from down there, and it was really, really slippy. And so it was easy to light the rear tyre up as you came down here, but you wanted to get a good run out of that exit there in order to get a fast run down into the woods here. So obviously these concrete bollards weren't here, so over that curb and into the woods. So as we head into the woods, this is one of many sections that I look at now and think, how did they ever decide that they could put a motocross track here? Because it's just trees. So there's a massive one on the left here. That, I guess, would have been covered with bales. There'll be some newer trees that have grown since, but I can remember blasting down here, not sure exactly where, and it was downhill and off camber and into a right-left chicane. And this isn't signposted. You can't see the remains of the track anymore. So I guess most people that have walked this track don't actually realise where it went. So even I'm struggling to think where it went. So I'm not sure whether it turned right before these trees or after them. But I know we went right up there somewhere and then like a handbrake left. So probably before these trees, so it'd be about here somewhere. A left and then a right, and then off down parallel with the road again. Now I'm really struggling to recognise exactly where we went now. We came up along, probably between those two trees there, and then around this bad boy, and kinked down to the left. But there are overgrown parts up in the woods there, which I don't really recognise. But how did they ever put a motocross track here? It's just like an enduro course. Now, I think I'm recognising this because I think we went up a steep little climb there, up into the woods, and then dropped back down. So I do remember that. So we've come hauling down there, off camber, up to the right, and then sharp left at the top around a tree to come back down to the level. You've got to remember that all the way around here, this is all fenced off with banners, colourful banners, and thousands of fans. And every sort of free square inch, there was a tent there, and people just camped everywhere around here, anywhere they could fit in. And so there were vans and there were tents and food stalls and trade stands, and you know, some of these were just on a slope because it is on the side of a hill. But the atmosphere was just incredible. So that, I think, was the last drop before we head up into the run down towards the double jump. That looks a lot steeper than I remember it. So we turn around that tree there, if you can see that on the inside. That was one of those corners, a bit like that one hill at Majora, where it was so on camber that if you stalled, you would fall down against that tree. You know, you really got to keep the power up to keep the bike on its wheels going around there. So we dropped down there, and then this was very off camber into a fence on the left, and then there was a right-hander going up this hill here, which will take you up into the straight leading to the double jump.
Voor de cameramensen ook door die felle zon en dan afwisseling met de schaduwpartijen. Hier Karel Kvist Torp in elk geval in tweede positie.
So that, I think, is the last uphill, but it's very overgrown, so either I'm right or I'm going to get stung and fall over, so I'll stop the recording and start again at the top. And that's it from the top. What I do remember about that right-hander there, it was that it was always in between gears. Second gear was running out a bit, but it wouldn't pull third at the bottom. So you come up that hill and then 90-degree left here, going down the back of the pits. That's a sign there that says that's the motocross track direction. But we didn't come from there. I'm pretty sure we came up that hill there that you can't really see because it's so overgrown, and then left down there. So this single track footpath that you see now was in fact reasonably wide straight. Don't know where you can see there, that's the fence, that's the back of the pits. But we went through here, but I mean, look at this. You've got two trees there. I'm looking at this now and thinking, how can this possibly be part of the track? Those trees haven't grown in the last 30 years, but look how narrow it is. So I guess we must have curved around these. This brush wouldn't have been here. These trees would have been covered with bales. So yeah, it really doesn't look like a section of the track at the moment, but I can assure you it was. I do remember that halfway along this straight it kinked right, but it was off camber, and that's exactly what we've got here. So pretty slippy when it was wet, and also we were going quite fast down here. Now this, as I said, is the back of the pits here, so Håkan Karlqvist would have parked just the other side of those pits, that fence for the pits. And he did that because his mechanic Jens could just jump over the fence here and pitboard him from here in the middle of the woods. And the reason he did that is because he didn't want anybody to know how fast he was going. This was in 1988 when he famously did his beer stop. So they parked around the back of the pits, and his mechanic signalled in from here halfway around the track. The significance of that is that he started his fast lap here and he finished his fast lap here, so he never passed the official timing point, which is up by the start in the esplanade area. He never passed the official timing point twice at speed. So he could register his fast laps. He and his mechanic knew how fast they were, but nobody else knew. And so that's how he kept his speed secret that weekend, which is a pretty cool story. Now I've just come up to what I consider the scariest part of the track, and that was the downhill double. Now, where this footpath is going now is not, as I remember, where the track went. The track was further over into this brush here. So we'd come down this fast straight. We're doing, I don't know how many miles an hour in a third gear. We were braking, and then we turned right. So it was a kink right just here, and then a kink left. And the kink left is this opening here, which you can see. I think that part is the same. And that leads in to a drop-off, okay? Not particularly troublesome drop-off. But down there is another footpath road that goes across it. This is not really going to come out on a camera, I'm sure, but that presented an opportunity for a double jump. Now, it's a reasonable distance, both in length and in drop, but the thing to remember is that we were turning, there was no run up to it. We were turning right, then then immediately left. So we've got, probably the run-up is from about here, and you're still leant over, and it's kind of rocky underneath, so it was slippy. So to get the run-up, to actually get over that second slope there, which is by that tree, so the downslope is the bottom of that tree there on the left. I'm looking at it now and thinking, wow, this is impossible. Now, in terms of who did it first, I can confirm to you it was Ismo Vekinen that did it first. I think in 88, I think. Jared Smith did it second. A few other people did it. I did it myself the next year a couple of times in practice, but it was scary because it was blind. You didn't really know where you were going, and you just got to get all of the drive in no run-up at all whilst leant over. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to walk down there because that looks like I'm going to crash and burn myself, so I'll rejoin you at the bottom. So we're now at the bottom of the double, so that was the takeoff. Come down here, and here's the road that crosses it, and there's the downslope. And it doesn't look that much. I'm sure that some people will be looking at this and going, oh, everybody would jump that. But believe me, it was difficult because of the lack of run-up, and also the fact that there was no lift. It was heading downhill into it, so there was no way to actually get the bike going upwards. But if you did do this jump, it saved a lot of time because it would always get quite rutty down here and into this transition. So this transition here was always rutted, so if you cased it, you're casing it in ruts. But if you hop over there, you could brake a lot sooner for the next corner. So it was quite a time saving. Another view of the downhill double. Now the track went down here and right. It's all overgrown now. And the track did change, you know, from year to year. I raced here 6 different times, I think, and they did make slight changes each year. So I remember there being a right-hander here and then heading into a left-hander, but whether it went between those trees or up there, I don't know, and it's no longer recognisable. But it was always kind of dark here in the trees, and also if it was dusty, which it sometimes was back in the day, the dust would just kind of hang in the air, not really getting blown away in the trees, and then the sunlight would come through the gaps in the trees and just kind of flicker off the leaves. So it was always quite tricky for vision when you get in the woods here. But the dirt was always prime because this track was raced once a year for the GP, so it never got worn out. It was always just like topsoil. It's rare these days that we ever would ride on topsoil because it's always bulldozed and the topsoil's long since gone. But this was always good soil. That soil was always getting renewed every year by all the falling leaves, and so it was always prime. A few tree roots here and there, as you might expect, but again, because it didn't get used very often, it didn't actually dig up that much. It wasn't that rough. If you come to visit Namur, and I really recommend that you do, even if you came and watched here back in the day, that'll refresh your memory. If you've never got to watch here, then you should come and have a look. But there are signs here that are telling you where the track is going, but I'm not convinced that they are right. I think they're giving you a shortcut because I'm pretty sure that we went down here. There were more drop-offs. It's a little bit sad that nature has claimed it back. It's just all overgrown, and you know, I've raced quite a few laps around here and I can't remember exactly where it went. I can remember where it went, but I can't recognise it now. It's all overgrown. But I'm pretty sure this is one of the drop-offs. I remember there being 2 drop-offs, and they were very difficult to learn. The whole track was difficult to learn because it was well over a 3-minute lap time, and so much of it looked the same. But one of these drop-offs, you could go off it reasonably fast, and the other one you couldn't because it was just like it was steeper and it's a flat landing at the bottom, and it's very difficult. In the first year that I raced here, even with all the 2-hour practice sessions and the qualifying session, I still didn't know where I was going. I still didn't remember which drop-off was which. But this certainly was one of them because I remember it being by the road there. And then there was another one further up. But the the signs are saying for me to go right through there, but I don't think that's right. But hey, what would I know? So I was right in that that is one of the drop-offs, and then the signposts take you the easy route through the less dangerous and less overgrown parts of the woodland. But that certainly was one of the drops there, which then raced along here, and we now pick up the signs again, so we drop down through here. But it is all very overgrown now, and you know, and in parts unrecognizable. And that's kind of sad, because I remember it in its heyday. I remember it as a fine motocross track, and banners everywhere and fans everywhere, and you know, wherever we went as well. This is a long track, as I said, over 3 minutes long, but wherever we were on the track, it seemed that the fans were like, you know, 5 deep at least. So there was always a lot of people here, even though it was actually terrible viewing. The only place you could see the riders for more than like 5 seconds was up in the Citadel. If you were down here, you'd see them flash past for 5 seconds, and that would be it. Right, I need my machete. We're now on the bottom straight, which used to be lined with a wooden fence on the left hand side, because there's a big drop down there. But the way that the signpost had brought me is not how I remember getting onto this. I think the track is up in the jungle part there, that we used to drop down hard right up against a fence, then along this straight here, and down here. There's a big drop down there down to the road, which is probably why there was a fence there before, and maybe why they've now taken that down, that we no longer race here. But this was a fast section, but it was smooth, so it was a chance for rest. And this is heading down towards the very lowest part of the track by the Chalet de Monument Cafe, another awesome, iconic part of the circuit. So it was fast, impossible to pass here. Yeah, you've got wooden sleepers in there, you probably can't see them. So the bank is retained by what's now kind of very rotten wooden sleepers. So those went along the high side of the cutout here. It just looked so narrow. You know, when you think the drop off is there and the bank is there, it can't have been any more than 3 meters wide. And one year they decided, probably just back there, to build a double jump. This would have been in about 85, I would think. And when I say build a double jump, it was just rubbish. They just 2 piles of dirt, and they were terribly shaped, but still quite a long way apart. And I remember I did double it. I think I was on I just switched to Kawasaki in 85. I was pretty good at jumps, so I managed to double it. But I can remember Andre Mallard parked just off to the side here somewhere, looking at it, and then subsequently riders complained, because it was a bit shit, if I'm honest, and they got it taken out. But stupid place to put a double jump anyway, because nobody could see it, because this was one of the least accessible parts of the circuit. There were no spectators here, because you've got jungle up on the top there, and you've got big drop down to the road there. So I'll keep the camera on as I walk down here. So this was pretty fast. We were 3rd gear, I suppose. It's downhill into here. Braking, always quite slippy. And this is where the track turns out of the woods and onto the tarmac road. Probably the most iconic part of the track. It's all a bit overgrown now, but it was very quick, very slippy, and very off camber. Although it doesn't really look it here when you're actually riding it. you were leant over as you were coming down onto the road. I guess we were actually riding down this bank here. This brush would have been out of the way. So it was on camber as we were turning towards the road, but the road itself, you've got like a blue clay curbstone there. Get down the bottom, look at it from the other way. These curbstones were really slippy. So we were dropping down from there and then onto the road here, and these cobbles and the tarmac, and it was just really slippy, and you're still leant over, you know, it's a bit of a curve. So you're trying to put the power down on a 500 two-stroke with knobbly tyres on tarmac, and there's dirt on the tarmac, and it's potentially wet, and it was slippy. And that was the Chalet de Monument, now a private house, sadly. So there's been many thousands of photos taken of that place. It was a bar, so there would be hundreds of fans outside, tables fenced off, and this is where the British fans mostly seem to congregate.
Just listen to them sing. This is Namur, the cup final of motocross. And we wait, hushed. It's Malin still. Paul Malin, the young 19-year-old Derbyshire rider.
And it was spine-tingling to ride past here. As some of you may know if you've read my book, I wrote an entire chapter on Namur. And I always insisted with my mechanic getting the bike down early into the Parc Fermé for practice to be the first rider out. Because let me tell you, being the first rider to set wheels on this track on the August bank holiday weekend each year was just an amazing feeling. And to come down out of those trees up there and past the thousands of British fans here was just incredible. And I also wrote in my book about how I imagined that it was also spine-tingling for the fans as well, because if you've come here and you've been waiting down here all morning with your friends waiting for the GP to start, you would have heard the bikes starting to enter the track up there, and it would be at least a minute and a half, I suppose, to get down from the top. But you would have heard those crisp 500s barking their way through the trees as they make their way down, getting louder and louder and louder, and then eventually, after a long wait, they would just blast out from that wood and past you with your beer in hand there and your mates, and along this road here. It must have just been fantastic. And here, of course, is where Håkan Karlqvist famously stopped for his beer on the last lap of the first moto in the 500 Belgian Grand Prix in 1988. The stuff of legend. And maybe if it wasn't for the fact that it was caught on video, people wouldn't believe it happened. But yeah, it was his last 500 GP here. He was retiring at the end of the year, and he had a bit of extra motivation because he knew that if he got a big enough lead, this is what he wanted to do. Stop on the last lap, grab a quick swig of beer, and then still win the race. Probably the coolest thing to ever happen. He knew he was going fast. That's why he got his mechanic to time his lap times from halfway around the track rather than in the main mechanics area, in the esplanade. And so he was on it all weekend, but nobody knew he was fast until it came to qualification. But in the first moto, he pulled out a 30-second lead. And yeah, on the last lap, he pulled up here. His brother, it was pre-arranged, his brother had bought the beer. His brother leant over, Håkan stopped, quick swig of beer, then sticked his Kawasaki back into gear and took off and still won the race. I was in that race. We didn't know it had happened because we were right up the top there. It was only some time later after the race had finished that this news started to filter through, and it was quite unbelievable. But yeah, that's where, outside the Chalet de Monument, 1988, Håkan Karlqvist made history by stopping for a beer. Now this is the road that leads up from the city of Namur and up to the pits up around there. When I first rode here in '85, I'd heard that there was a road section, but nobody had explained to me that it was actually like a good 100-meter road section. But when we drove in here, because this was the way to the pits, so we drove in, I could see the track coming out of the woods there where I've just walked down. You can see the sleepers leant up against the wall, so that was where the track comes out of the wood. But I didn't realise where the track went then. So I saw a section of track, but it was like right next to these houses, and I thought that can't be right. And I didn't know whether the track just like went left by that car now and across the other side of the road and down into the hills. But actually it was only when I walked the track, as I've just done with you a couple of minutes ago, you then realise that no, where it goes is along this road here and then up that cobblestone road up there by the cars. And I had no idea. It's just insane, this place. This is quite downhill as well, more downhill than I remember it. Slippy, but just a truly magnificent section of track. And then this here, where these little scooters are, that was a jump up onto that cobblestone road. So this is the lowest part of the track now. Now that jump looks kind of a bit off camber, but I don't remember it as being off camber. Obviously this curb here will have been covered up, so we weren't having to ride across that. So it was smooth up this grassy bank. In fact, let's just walk up the grassy bank. So it must have been up there. And that was a big kind of ramp jump. Went up in the air. And now I do remember that there was a tree. I'll have to check photos and see whether any trees have come out, because there was a tree up in the air, and I can remember jumping a long way off this and having to duck my whole body to miss, so my head and helmet would miss the branches of the tree. So whether that tree's been taken out or whether it wasn't that one on the right, I don't think, because that would be a hell of a jump to hit your head on that one. But anyway, there we are. There's the road section, out of the woods, along the tarmac section, up this bank, and onto this this cobblestone road. I think there was a sprinkling of dirt on this road, but it was cobblestones underneath, so there was zero grip. And we were riding along here, probably, what would it be? You come out of the woods in third, probably up to fourth of that ramp jump, so probably wide open in fourth. I don't know how fast that would be, 60, 65 miles an hour up here. We'd always got this kind of channel here. That's always been there, because this road's been here a long time. And so it was always a bit kind of funky to ride on. So you could get your wheels caught in that. And then we're heading up towards the castle wall turn, so we'll return when I get there. So this is heading into the castle wall turn. You got the cobblestone on the right, some sort of gravel on the left. I can't remember exactly where the track went. I know it was slippy, but it could be that we were mainly on that gravel part, because certainly we were turning right by that circular sign there, and I know the track kinked left, right, 90-degree right here, and then up that banking there, because there's just an epic photo of Andre Malherbe sliding his factory Honda into that corner, and I'm guessing about there. Maybe I can splice that photo into this video later. But it was left and right. There were not bales. I remember there being like an old mattress up against that wall there. But if you think, we were coming down here at 65 miles an hour, if your throttle stuck and those doors were closed there, I might go in there and see what's the other side of that. Those doors were closed, but it's a solid castle wall. But anyway, we were turning right. There was protection up against that wall here, and bits of sheets of plywood with like sponge underneath. And then we turn right to go up there. And that looks quite simple, but it isn't, because it's so slippy, these cobblestones, that you couldn't really get the power on. You have to be very gingerly with the application of the power until you get to here, and then that's a pretty steep bank from zero run up. So if we go back to this corner, if you went a little bit wider in this corner, so you turn more from the outside here, you could kind of square it off and then get more of a run up, but then that left you open to being blocked past up the inside. So it was quite tricky to get the run up. And I remember this being they poured tarmac down it. I will attempt to walk up there because that's the only way out of here. I remember there being tarmac on there to give a bit of extra grip, but I've got a photo of myself failing to get up that hill, because you've only got to just spit up slightly at the bottom and you wouldn't get up it. Awesome. So that's what you see if you come through that tunnel at the castle wall turn. So this is the inside of the ramparts. I've never been here, but the track goes up to the right. That's where we're going shortly. But that's the drop that would await you if you went off the track to the left of the track as you go up there on the right. So we'll see shortly. So it's a pretty long way down, but it's not hundreds of feet, as some people have said. Look at the size of those doors. And those hinges. And the lock. Everything about it is just big, isn't it? You wouldn't want to have to hang those doors. So that's the castle wall turn. I had to admit defeat there. I couldn't actually climb up that, just no traction at all. So I've had to go around the outside, but we used to come up that in second gear, I think it was. Jump off the top here. And that's where we're heading up there. But there was always a bit of a kink. So I think we used to go right and left, probably by that, whatever that square thing is on the ground there, to slow it down, because otherwise it would be very, very fast going up that hill. So I think the track used to go right a bit, left around that square plate monument, and then off up the first of the steps, I guess we call them. And it was covered in dirt, but it always used to be tricky to get traction. But now I think I know, because underneath it was these cobblestones. So a thin layer of dirt, and then straight the tar and the cobblestone. So no wonder we didn't get much traction. And up there is the cable car. And that brings people up from the centre of Namur up to the top of the Citadel. So again, the Citadel is the name for this entire hilltop. And this place is enormous. I'm going to take some pictures later of from further away as you approach it, because I never really paid much attention when I was racing. You're just here to do the race and you're concentrating on the track. But as we were driving up to this place, these sort of walls here, they're everywhere. It's an enormous construction project. And I believe there are also miles of hidden catacombs underneath somewhere. So yeah, the Citadel is the entire place, not just that building at the top on the esplanade. So again, that's how close it is to the city. I think this is the other side of the town compared to the clip I took earlier on the first part of the track. So I just walked up that first climb, the first one of the steps, and it's way steeper than I remembered. And off to the side there, you've got the moat ramparts, and then the second part of the step, which also is looking a lot steeper than I remember. I seem to remember there being some sort of like second lump here, shallow lump. So if you got a good enough run up that hill, and there wasn't really any lift on that hill, the hill was rounded at the top, but you could you could carry over that very small lump around there and then get a faster run up the hill. So in the opening of my book, I make reference to that, trying to figure out if I can double up that first hill. Well, that was just doubling over that small thing, not doubling right over there. Here's the rampart moat thing. I like the fact that health and safety is like non-existent. If you want to walk over there and go to the edge and fall to your death, carry on. But never ever realised, all the years I raced here, walking around the track, that was actually there. Because I always walk the track and race the track, and I'm just looking at the track and where the track's going and trying to figure out what line I'm going to take and which is the fastest way around. And it never once crossed my mind that if I get a bit of a swapper and go over there, it could be bad news. Top of the second climb and heading into the third one. I think there's 4 in total, but it's quite a turn here. You know, it's not a straight run up here at all. Then you go over that second one, and this is where famously Thorpe passed Gabors in '89, I think, in his titanic battle around here. You can see them leant over, so it was probably he drew level with him on this rise here.
Side by side over the jump, and Thorpe's got past Gabors. They lock handlebars as they go through, but Thorpe's done it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a kink to the right, and if you went straight on, you die. It's a bit rocky here, but trust me when I tell you that Citadel in Austria was far more rocky than this place. Obviously, this is rain damage that's done this, but nevertheless, oh, nearly went. Nevertheless, the rocks were there underneath. It's okay, I survived. Trying to walk up a steep rocky slope and carrying a camera in your one hand is not the best for balance, but we're okay. So that was the third climb, and this is the fourth one up onto the flat, which would be almost the highest part of the circuit. And I think I'm going to take the easy route round there. So that's the top of the fourth and final climb, with a short straight into a left-right chicane. Now, I did actually crash into one of these trees here one year. I can't remember which it was, can't remember the specifics, but I guess I came over this hill, caught an edge, the bike landed with the wheel off to one side, flicked the other way, and then boof, into probably the first or second tree here. There were bales on it. And I didn't hurt myself, but yeah, not a nice thing to do, crash into a tree. Up here, there was a little dinky left-right chicane. I'm guessing it went around that tree right in front of me, and then into a drop-off, off-camber left at the bottom. So I'm guessing we were coming up here. So that's where we come from, up here, and then it probably kinked left here, and then right here, because I remember that the bike was still leant over as you went off this drop off. The bike just come off the ground a bit. But I saw Stefan Everts in later years just doing this feet up and like a trials rider, and going just as fast as I used to, trying to do it sat down. So we just plop off here, probably land about a third of the way down that hill, and then into that left-hander. So I'll turn the camera off until I safely negotiate this hill, and I'll see you in a moment. So this bit's exactly as I remember it. So we drop off that hill, down here, pretty much where this footpath goes, but we turned a little bit before that footpath, so we were going inside of that tree right in the centre of the camera there. So there were fences on the outside, hay bales on that tree. So this was a fast left-hander coming out of here in third, and then up to that jump there, up onto the esplanade. And I got a great picture of myself and Eric Cabors coming over that jump. But that building obviously wasn't there. Let's just walk up there now. Something else I can tell you is that it was always a bit dark. You know, you're going in and out of sun and shade through most of this lap. So you come down into this part here and it's very dark. And as you come up here, depending on the time of the day, it was very bright. So it was difficult to see your lines. You know, your eyes take a moment to adjust to the different brightness. But this was a blind jump that was not flat out, because just beyond this jump, beyond this hill, they built a tabletop. I guess that probably wasn't there in the 70s, but in my era, in the 80s, you went out of here and then into the face of a steep tabletop at the top. So third gear, out of the woodland, up this ramp, pretty fast off this ramp. Then that building wasn't there. So there was a tabletop, I would guess, about level with that grey Renault there, which is quite a long tabletop that probably, the downslope was probably by the entrance to that building. And then that would lead back into the first turn again. So this was a fun jump. Again, back in the day, they didn't really know how to build jumps very well. So I remember it was quite a long tabletop, but it was a very steep up ramp and a very steep down ramp. So if you ride, you'll know that those are quite difficult to hit. You haven't got much leeway on your landing when you've got to land on such a steep downslope. So to start with, a lot of the GP guys couldn't get their head around that, but I was pretty good at jumps, so I didn't mind it. So that's what we would see if we look to our right as we completed the lap. So again, the Stade de Jeux, start gate will be down level with about that, where that grey van is now. But for the rider rejoining, starting another lap, I should say, so he's finishing the lap. That first corner was going through this building here, which I think is it's a museum or something. So the first turn will be sweeping through here, and then round by that that van there with the roof rack on it, and the finish line will be down what was the second straight. So there we have it. That's my track walk of Namur. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's been fantastic for me. It's a shame that some of it is overgrown and I couldn't really tell where the track went, but a lot of the major iconic parts are still there. And it feels a little bit sad to be back here as well, because I just remember this as, you know, being here at the event when it was all noise and crowds and colours, and it was just in its heyday, and now it's no more. But equally, I feel very fortunate, lucky, privileged to have happened to get good at motocross at the right time, and to have been able to take part in the Belgian 500 GP at Namur. It's a real privilege to have done that. So yeah, hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.
You could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost from a wishing well, in a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet. You know that ghost is me, and I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost that you can't see. If I could read your mind, love, what a tale your thoughts could tell. Just like a paperback novel, the kind the drugstores sell. When you reach the part where the heartaches come, the hero would be me. But heroes often fail, and you won't read that book again because to take. I'd walk away like a movie star who gets burned in a three-way script. Enter number 2, a movie queen to play the scene of bringing all the good things out in me. But for now, love, let's be real. I never thought I could act this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone and I just can't get it back. If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost from a wishing well, in a castle dark or a fortress strong, with chains upon my feet. The stories always end. If you read between the lines, you'll know that I'm just trying to understand the feelings that you lack. Never thought I could feel this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone and I just can't get it